He had the ability to take something that seemed somewhat complicated and complex and break it down into parts, and then he had the patience to share that knowledge with other people.
His integrity, his honesty, his genius for engineering, all of these things together made Ernie a very exceptional man.
Last year, broadcasting lost one of its giants, a Renaissance man whose impact on the industry was only exceeded by his passion for life and family. Ernie Jones was widely known in the broadcast industry, having designed and overseen the fabrication of more than 3,000 towers.
There's lots of people out there that can design towers. There are a lot of people who can analyze towers. But Ernie was a cross between the tower rigger and the engineer. And Ernie thoroughly understood how to work on towers.
You could tell he knew his science down cold and was supremely confident in his ability to engineer solutions to complex problems.
Ernie received his BSME from Rose-Hulman Institute of Technology.
He's in the Rose-Hulman Hall of Fame for track and field as an athlete.
Ernie gave his all in everything that he did. He was an avid and enthusiastic kayaker. A love of horses led to a passion for ranching.
We met at a calf roping seminar. Ernie was already a great horseman and roper. Over the next several years, we spent a lot of time in the saddle, trail riding and herding cattle. Ernie threw a mean loop, usually catching a cow in the first throw. Me, not so much. But he was a great teacher and was always patient with me. He taught me many things, but I think the most important was to stay calm.
One of Ernie's greatest contributions was one that very few people knew about.
In Baltimore, there's a 1,000-foot candelabra with a 100-foot top.
In late 1999, the stations began the process of removing the existing analog antennas and adding the stacked VHF-UHF antennas for the DTV transition. On the morning of the first antenna change, disaster struck.
John Byrne from CBS Television in New York City was involved in this project.
Ernie, he said, "We have a real mess here in Baltimore, and you're the only one, frankly, I trust to get us out of it."
He came to me in my office and he told me what had happened. And he said, "Tom, I want to do this project more than anything else I've ever wanted to do in my life."
All this happened the day before a hurricane was supposed to come up the coast. It wasn't a happy time. Ernie, like the proverbial structural white knight, arrived at the site late that afternoon.
We sat there at the table and the manager said, "All right, gentlemen, we have Ernie Jones and Tom Silver from VRI's second opinion."
His face was white as the ghost, and he said, "You don't know how very lucky you are that this tower isn't laying in a pile here on the ground."
I think we need to take some time and analyze this failure to make sure that we know exactly what happened so that everything is done safely the next time around. And the foreman sort of shook his head and gave me the look like dirtbag.
Several mistakes had been made by the structural engineer that had been hired to design the tower and oversee the work.
So I said, well, let's call the company that supplied it. So we talked to their engineer and they said, "There's nothing wrong with that false section. It's a perfectly good 75-foot candelabra false section." We analyzed the false section and we realized that Ernie came to me and ran into my office. He said, "Oh my God," he said, "this false section was clearly unbuckling."
So much force was applied during the initial pick that 20 of the 24 bolts that held the crane to the top plate of the supporting tower section snapped.
He said the only thing that saved that tower was the derrick falling over. It was ready to go.
He ultimately guided the tower crew through the successful removal and reinstallation of the 3 antenna stacks. He later used the lessons he learned to help rewrite many of the lifting guidelines used by the National Association of Tower Erectors and the EIA.
And if Ernie hadn't have doggedly forced them to do everything by the book, if they'd welded that crane, the false section would have buckled, the crew would have been killed, the tower would have fallen down. It would have been the worst national tower disaster in the history of towers in the United States of America.
Ernie's contributions to our industry will far outlive him.
His number one contribution was making installing equipment on big towers much more predictable and much safer.
Ernie was a driving force in helping to write the book on tower standards. As a member of NATE, he was driven to trying to make the industry and the work safer.
Ernie's calm demeanor carried through whether he was building a barbed wire fence, breaking a 2-year-old thoroughbred colt, or climbing a tall tower.
Ernie was an exceptional engineer. I don't think there'll ever be another Ernie Jones.